Did a king really build lavish gardens so his wife wouldn't be homesick? Did a giant sculpture really adorn the entrance to a harbor in ancient times? Who built the first ever lighthouse, and how big was it? Did any of the 7 ancient wonders of the world really exist? Join me as we scour through lost history in search of missing clues. The earliest lists of world wonders came from the father of history, Herodotus, who lived in the 5th century BC, and Callimachus of Cyrene over a century later. The final list was probably created around the 1st century, and bear in mind, it is relatively confined to the Mediterranean. The folks back then didn't really have the ability to travel much, but even so, these places are so extraordinary, and magical even, that we are not sure all of them even existed. Most of the accounts we have are from sources that got their info from even older sources, which have been lost to time. Out of all 7 of the ancient wonders of the world, the one that intrigued me the most was the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. The background story we have on the gardens supposedly came from a Babylonian guy named Berossus, who was a priest of the god Marduk, the son of the sun. He says that King Nebuchadnezzar II had wed Princess Amytis of the Median Empire. But the princess soon grew homesick. In order to remedy this, the king found a pretty flamboyant solution. He ordered the construction of elevated gardens and planted all the trees from his wife's place of birth. There were supposedly tiers upon tiers of gardens, planted with all kinds of plants. There was a sophisticated vertical system of irrigation, and the water would flow from one garden to the next. Most historians believe the so-called Gardens of Babylon were probably just a legend. However, even though there is no evidence that such gardens ever existed in ancient Babylon, some scholars do think the gardens were real, but at another location. According to them, it was King Sennacherib who built the gardens in the Neo-Assyrian capital of Nineveh in the 7th century BC. This actually makes sense, because the gardens at Nineveh were very well documented. Supposedly there was a huge canal that brought in water from the river Euphrates. Then a mechanism with a series of clogs was used to transport the water to the upper levels of the gardens. Tales of old can easily be distorted through time, so it is very plausible that a form of the garden existed in ancient times. And for a lush green oasis to grow out in the middle of the desert, that was truly a wonder to behold. The ancient Greeks didn't really call them wonders of the world. The term they used describes a sight to be seen. And the next site we are about to explore is located in Greece itself, in the ancient city of Olympia. There, in ancient times, stood the Grand Temple of Zeus, a marvelous display of the reverence and devotion of the ancient Greeks to their pantheon of gods. At the heart of this sacred sanctuary resided the awe-inspiring statue of Zeus, the king of the gods. Crafted by the skilled hands of the renowned Athenian sculptor Phidias, the statue of Zeus stood as a pinnacle of artistic achievement and divine representation. Standing at a towering height of over 40 feet, Zeus was depicted seated upon a majestic throne, his countenance radiating power and majesty. According to the sculptor himself, he drew the inspiration for this monumental work of art from the verses of Homer's Iliad, which described Zeus as an austere deity whose mere movement could shake the very foundations of Mount Olympus. Phidias masterfully captured this divine essence, imbuing the statue with a sense of awe and reverence that left all who beheld it spellbound. Adorned with lavish details and crafted from precious materials such as ivory and gold, the statue of Zeus was truly a sight to behold. In his right hand, Zeus held an icon of the goddess Nike, symbolizing victory and triumph. In his left hand, he grasped a scepter crowned by an eagle, a symbol of his dominion over the heavens. For nearly a millennium, the statue of Zeus stood as a symbol of divine power and splendor, attracting pilgrims and visitors from far and wide who sought to pay homage to the king of the gods. However, with the rise of Christianity and the decline of the ancient world, the temple fell into disrepair, and the statue was eventually lost to the ravages of time. In 391 AD, the Roman Emperor Theodosius I implemented laws that led to the decline of pagan worship, sealing the fate of the sanctuary at Olympia. The once majestic statue of Zeus was left to crumble, its grandeur fading into memory as the world moved on. Today, all that remains of this magnificent work of art are scattered fragments and faded accounts in ancient texts. What a pity. Nestled within the ancient city of Ephesus, situated in what is now modern-day Turkey, stood the illustrious Temple of Artemis, which was a true marvel of architecture. Dedicated to the worship of Artemis, the goddess of the hunt and the wilderness, this magnificent temple was renowned throughout the ancient world for its grandeur and splendor. The temple was constructed in the Ionic style of architecture, with its towering columns and intricate friezes captivating the imagination of all who beheld it. Surrounding the temple was a sprawling complex, complete with altars, shrines, and ceremonial spaces, where worshippers could pay homage to the revered goddess. Legend has it that the construction of the temple was overseen by the Greek Amazons, fierce warrior women, who held Artemis as their patron deity. Their influence is evident in the temple's design, which exuded strength and grace in equal measure, reflecting the dual nature of Artemis as both a protector and a hunter. Throughout its history, the Temple of Artemis faced numerous challenges, from floods and fires to earthquakes and invasions. Yet, time and time again, it rose from the ashes, rebuilt and restored by generations of devoted worshippers who refused to let its sacred flame be extinguished. One of the most infamous events in the temple's history occurred in 356 BC, when a man named Herodotus, driven by a desire for fame, set fire to the temple supposedly, on the very night of Alexander the Great's birth. Though the temple was badly damaged, it was soon rebuilt by the Ephesians, determined to preserve their beloved sanctuary. Over the centuries, the Temple of Artemis continued to be a beacon of faith and devotion, drawing pilgrims and visitors from far and wide who sought solace and guidance in the presence of the divine. However, it would eventually suffer the same fate as the Temple of Zeus. With the rise of Christianity and the decline of the ancient world, the building fell into disrepair, its once majestic halls left to crumble beneath the weight of time. In the ancient city of Halicarnassus, located in present-day Turkey, there was another testament to the grandeur and opulence of the ancient world. It was a mausoleum, commissioned by the ruler of Caria. Check this out. The guy's name was Mausolus. A fitting name, isn't it? Actually, the term mausoleum is derived from Mausolus and his intent on building a fitting tribute to himself and his wife Artemisia. Constructed during the 4th century BC, the mausoleum was a marvel of eclectic architecture, blending Hellenic, Persian, and Egyptian influences into a stunning masterpiece. Rising above the city skyline, its towering facade and intricate design drew admirers from far and wide, rightfully earning it a place among the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The mausoleum was situated atop a vast podium, adorned with ornate reliefs and statues that depicted scenes from myth and legend. A grand staircase led to the entrance, where visitors would be greeted by the imposing figure of Mausolus himself, mounted on a chariot and surrounded by symbols of power and authority. Within the mausoleum's walls lay a labyrinth of chambers and corridors, housing the remains of Mausolus and his wife Artemisia, in a lavish sarcophagus adorned with precious metals and jewels. Surrounding their final resting place were countless treasures and artifacts. Sick brag in the afterlife, am I right? For centuries, the mausoleum stood as a symbol of Carian pride and prosperity, its splendor attracting visitors and pilgrims from across the ancient world. However, with the rise of empires and the passage of time, the mausoleum eventually fell into disrepair, its once magnificent halls left to crumble and disappear beneath the desert sands. Today, all that remains of the mausoleum are scattered ruins and fragments, a shadow of its former glory. Yet, the legacy of Mausolus and Artemisia lives on, immortalized in myth and memory, a reminder of the power of ambition, innovation, and the enduring quest for immortality. When I was watching The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, one scene stood out to me.
Long have I desired to look upon the kings of old, my kin.
The reason this scene impressed me so much is that I immediately remembered one of the wonders of the ancient world. I thought to myself, this is probably what the Colossus of Rhodes looked like. I wonder if Tolkien had him as a model when he envisioned his epic story. Standing tall and proud at the entrance to the harbor of Rhodes, the Colossus of Rhodes was a marvel of engineering and artistic achievement, even by today's standards. Constructed in the 3rd century BC, the Colossus was commissioned to commemorate the successful defense of the city against an invading force. It was supposed to honor the Greek sun god Helios. Rising to a height comparable to that of the modern Statue of Liberty, the Colossus loomed over the harbor, its majestic form casting a watchful eye over incoming ships and visitors. While the exact pose of the Colossus remains a subject of debate among historians and archaeologists, it is generally believed that the statue stood with one foot on either side of the harbor entrance, its arms stretched wide in a gesture of welcome and protection. However, some experts argue that this position would have obstructed maritime traffic, and that the statue more likely stood to one side of the harbor, serving as a symbol of Rhodian power and prestige. Fashioned from bronze plates riveted together and mounted on a framework of iron and stone, the Colossus was a marvel of ancient metallurgy and sculpture. Its gleaming surface caught the sunlight and glimmered like gold, earning it the nickname, the Colossus of Rhodes. For several decades, the Colossus stood there, inspiring awe in all who came within eyesight. However, in 226 BC, a powerful earthquake struck the island, causing the statue to buckle at the knees and collapse into the sea. Despite efforts to rebuild the Colossus, the damage was deemed irreparable, and the shattered remains of the statue lay scattered on the ocean floor. In the centuries that followed, the memory of the Colossus of Rhodes continued to captivate the imaginations of travelers and scholars alike. While the physical statue may have been lost to the depths of the sea, its legacy endured, immortalized in art, literature, and legend. Situated on the ancient shores of Egypt, the Lighthouse of Alexandria, also known as the Pharos of Alexandria, stood as a beacon of light and guidance for sailors navigating the treacherous waters of the Mediterranean Sea. Built during the reigns of Ptolemy I and Ptolemy II in the 3rd century BC, the lighthouse took approximately 12 years to complete. Rising to a towering height of over 100 meters, it was one of the tallest structures of its time, dwarfing all other buildings along the coastline. The design of the lighthouse was revolutionary, featuring a 3-tiered structure with a giant furnace at the top. This furnace emitted a powerful beam of light, serving as a navigational aid for ships approaching the harbor of Alexandria. It was the first of its kind, setting the standard for lighthouses that would follow in the centuries to come. The Lighthouse of Alexandria played a crucial role in facilitating trade and commerce in the ancient world. Its guiding light ensured the safe passage of ships laden with goods from distant lands, contributing to the prosperity and wealth of the city of Alexandria. Despite its grandeur and importance, the lighthouse was not immune to the forces of nature. Over the centuries, it was repeatedly damaged by earthquakes, gradually succumbing to the ravages of time. Eventually, the structure crumbled into the sea, leaving behind only ruins and memories of its former glory. The final and only wonder of the ancient world that still stands protrudes proudly from the ancient sands of Egypt. It is the Great Pyramid of Giza. Built over 4 millennia ago during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, this colossal structure remains a marvel of engineering and a symbol of Egypt's rich cultural heritage. Constructed around 2560 BC, the Great Pyramid was the tallest man-made structure in the world for nearly 3,800 years. Made from massive limestone blocks, some weighing as much as 80 tons, the pyramid was an unparalleled feat of construction in its time. Looks like those ancient Egyptians really knew their stuff when it comes to architecture. The purpose of the Great Pyramid has long been debated by historians and archaeologists. While traditionally believed to be a tomb for Pharaoh Khufu, the absence of conclusive evidence regarding the presence of his remains has led to speculation about alternative theories. Some suggest that the pyramid served a ceremonial or astronomical function, reflecting the ancient Egyptians' profound spiritual beliefs and celestial observations. The construction of the Great Pyramid is shrouded in mystery, with theories ranging from the use of slave labor to the employment of skilled craftsmen, innovative construction techniques, and even aliens. Regardless of the methods employed, The sheer scale and precision of the pyramid's construction are amazing. It is undeniable proof of the skill and dedication of the ancient Egyptians, or, their alien overlords. Over millennia, the Great Pyramid has endured earthquakes, erosion, and human intervention, yet it remains remarkably intact. Today, it still stands as a symbol of Egypt's enduring legacy as one of history's most remarkable civilizations. Visitors from around the world continue to marvel at the Great Pyramid's imposing presence, drawn by its mystique and grandeur. That's all for today. Be sure to smash the like and subscribe buttons, and join me in the next edition of Lost History.